Lost in darkness, the Bulldogs lost their way. Losing everything and forgot how to play. Along came the kid with long blonde hair. His name is Jeff Preston, do not despair. Doggies fans, are you ready? Ready? Yes, we are ready. Here we go, here we go, here we go. WrestleMania, mania. WrestleMania, WrestleMania, mania. Memories of Barrett's boys hurt us as we hang our heads in shame. Des and Deeb left us without a blue sky and more scapegoats to blame. But the rival of Presto and a new hungry Bulldogs breed will leave these nightmare memories for dust as they look for opponents to meet. Doggies fans, are you ready? Ready? Yes, we are ready. Here we go, here we go, here we go. WrestleMania, mania. WrestleMania, WrestleMania, mania. He came in 2023. He won all the awards and embarrassed some frauds or three. Tackling until his last breath, running harder than much bigger men. WrestleMania has led the way. WrestleMania is here to stay. WrestleMania, mania. WrestleMania, mania. WrestleMania, mania.
G'day, Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. It's the podcast episode 64. Welcome to a few of you. Sorry, I don't know how long that was playing for, but I think it got all the way through. Presto Mania. I challenge any Bulldogs fan to listen to that song for a couple of days straight, maybe 20 times a day, and then tell me whether it gets stuck in your head or not. It's still driving me crazy. And I'm making sure I don't hear it, except for when it comes onto the podcast. So come say hello in the chat. Sorry about the late notice and changing my days and stuff, but it is the off season and I'm really busy leading up to Christmas. But lots of news happening. So tonight we'll talk about Josh Addo-Carr and then we can put that to bed, which is fantastic. I love the Fox. It all began with the Fox. Many have said everything that I could say already, but I'll probably say it anyway. He was the one who come along. They signed Nick Kotrick on overs to start the ball rolling. Then it was the Fox and Burton, and a few. Then the better quality players just started to come on as they could. Welcome, Timmy. It's stuck in your head. Good evening, mate. Thanks for joining. And good evening to all Canterbury Bulldogs fans. I don't want this to be, people have said a lot of comments, but please don't come on and start talking about, hopefully he'll go join his mate Latrell and all that sort of stuff and whatever else. Josh will get picked up by a club and he'll get paid what he'll get paid. And he's always maintained his innocence. We don't know if he come clean at the end. We don't know. That'll be kept private, I would say. And I would suggest he won't say much about it from now on. But what it does do for Canterbury fans in the summer, we're sitting there at pretty much 29 or 30 players in the top 30. And now I think we've got 28 players. So a couple of spots have opened up. Plus we've seen a couple of, so Jordan Samrani left. He was part of the top 30, and there's a spot open in our development list with Joash Papali going with him to the Parramatta Eels. And not a bad move for Joash, and you can see how the cookies have sort of crumbled or whatever, the pieces have fallen into place because he's now essentially fighting for a fullback position in the top 30 with Iongi from Penrith, who was the heir apparent for Dylan Edwards. after Stephen Crichton left. Pardon me, I got the hiccups. So with that being said, that means that's been a good move for him. There's obviously centre spots and backline spots, which Jordan Samrani, that was probably, you're looking at that Parramatta side in that backline in the three-quarter, they're 1 to 5. Outside of Gutherson, they were a bit thin. So those two youngsters, their managers have done a good job to get an upgrade for those players. Welcome, Mark. We won't talk too much about Joe Ash, except for well done to him and his family. And hopefully one day we're paying big money for him to come back. Lots of money. So, but who knows? We'll see what happens. I think Josh's dad made some, people made some comments regarding the scenario, and he went and, either loved some of those comments or didn't comment, and that would show whether people are on the right track or not. But anyway. Timmy says, we wish Josh Addo-Carr all the best wherever he ends up. This opens the door for our younger outside backs like Jonathan Sewer, Eli Clark, and Geordie Mazzoni, who was rated by the great John Curry as one of his players to watch next year. So he's a good finisher and very, very fast, as we all know. So Eli Clark, love his defensive game and love his attitude when he plays. And Jonathan Sewer, well, he could be anything. So there's lots of positions there for our juniors to fill the void, but I think there's an opportunity for us to talk about some potential recruits to come in to the top 30. Maybe we'll see an elevation of a player like Jack Todd, but I'm pretty sure that Gus is going to keep, those players that are on the development contracts on those, tiered 3-year and 2-year contracts where they go from the train and trial onto development, then into the top 30. If they really see these players developing over that period of time. If they don't develop, well, then they find ways to sort that out. But we'll also look at, who are the players they might upgrade, but also the players that have come out. So I'll show you some clips of news. It's been a big news week, really. With Ben Hunt being sacked. Ben Hunt mutually leaving. He wanted to leave. About time that happened. It's been on the cards for a long while, so a mutual termination. Then we've got Clint Gutherson allowed to get a release from his contract, likely to go and take some of that money that Ben Hunt would have been taking up next year at the Dragons. And you've got Leo Thompson, whose brother's just come across from the All Blacks, and there was a good article on that today. I don't know if it was good, but it wasn't too bad. Does he leave Newcastle or does he stay and play with his brother? Who knows? But the Dogs are again being essentially told, the fans of the Dogs and fans of all the NRL teams being told that the Bulldogs are the front runners for his signature. And I think their hit rate on Bulldogs targets that we're linked to is probably about 5%. I reckon it's been like 2 out of 50 that they've named. The only ones that sort of we do get, the club have basically let them know, like it's been pretty well. It's been for players where no one else has been mentioned. So there hasn't been a player where there's been an actual bidding war for a player, and that can show that, well, it's just funny that it's just like, so if you look at all those players that come last year, there were no other teams mentioned as wanting their services. And that's including Stephen Crichton. So that's interesting. So we'll see if we actually get a player that is one of these bidding wars because we haven't got one yet. Funny that. Joe Borg, welcome, Joe. Everyone deserves a second chance, but it's all about the money. It's a free 500 grand. Well, that could be true, Joe. And I suppose that's how I'll deal with it. I'll just talk about where do we spend that money? Where does that go? Does it go into upgrades for juniors? Does it allow us a bit of extra to buy a player? What does that do? Timmy Gray, I know it's only rumours, but what's your thoughts on potentially going after Paps from the Storm? And Mark says we're definitely chasing Paps. Well, Pappenhausen is one of the best talents in the NRL. There's no doubt about that. You could possibly make the argument that he is worth as much or more on potential for... And the reason I say potential is because he's still yet to have a full season where he's been able to play from go to woe and be the best player he can be. Like he just has injuries. But he's a Bulldogs fan growing up. I think he's an absolutely sensational player. Lost a bit of speed though, and that doesn't help. But does that speed mean he's got more strength? Obviously, all of his skills improve all the time. His passing, his defensive reads, his ability to manage the defense of the team, all that stuff improves. And sitting on the sideline, I'm sure he would have, through his rehabilitation, done a lot of work on the brains trust of the game. And I actually, watching him come back, there was definitely a lot more... I don't know if the word's right, but science about his game. He just seems to be a smarter and more intelligent player. And with a lot of the things that he did, it wasn't just all off instinct. And not that it would have been anyway. Obviously, that's a club that builds itself on repetition and perfection and hard work. And, and not all players can handle what the Storm and Bellamy throw at them. But we will see. We will see. I would definitely look, the way I am with a lot of the signings now is, I've been one to put movies together talking about our shopping list and players we should target and go after. Now, Terrell May was one of those players that I said in 2023, I had Josh Curran, I had Luke Metcalf, I had, who's a very good player, I had Terrell May as my biggest players in that. Now, Terrell May, I didn't like what I saw in that video with the snorting and stuff like that. His brother's had a lot of issues, and now he's been told he's a free agent. If he's a free agent, there's either something that he's doing in his day-to-day that the Roosters don't like, there's something in his attitude, or the auditors are on their tail and they need to get rid of him for some reason. And usually if they want to move someone on, it's because there's someone that they want to get. Now, do they want Leo Thompson? Because that would be very much like the Roosters to not be linked to play. And that's another thing. Like, they've hardly been linked to any of these players. Like, commentators bring them up as an afterthought, but when they initially talk about the clubs interested, the Roosters haven't been rating a mention. Like, people have said Ben Hunt would be a natural player to go to the Roosters. With the money they should have available. And you would think that they would be in the market for Thompson as well. So it just doesn't make sense to me. They had to release Satili Tupanua, had to release him. They've let go of Luke Keary. And the way that he did it, he made it so that they didn't have to cop anything on their cap, and he was able to get a reevaluation to go to Super League over there. It was very smart the way he went about it. G'day, Russell's Oz Adventures. Yeah, he didn't get released. He got told that he can shop around and look for another club. So they're basically saying we're happy for you to leave. You know, that could be a case for them saying they want him to work harder and work and do more, or we really need you to piss off for whatever reason that they have, and he can go and find another club, and they'll probably contribute to some of that salary. So you could find that he could be coming it could be a match made in heaven for the Bulldogs, but I just do worry about he's off the field. But I'm only talking on speculation. I don't know if they would tell him the truth that they were just joking around. It was all a joke. There may not be anything wrong with his off field. He may have grown into a really mature young man and be an absolute pillar of society. I actually don't know. But we would see. Leo Thompson, haven't ever heard anything bad about him, only really good reports, especially from the Kiwis and stuff like that, and that he's a good human and a good person, and very connected, and wants to be a real leader of men, and he's still only quite young. So look, he's got the world at his feet, and if he ends up at the Bulldogs, I'm definitely going to say no. But again, it's one of those things. If we don't get him, I'm excited looking at Jack Underhill coming through, and not in the same way that we looked at Renouf for Tony. And look, I'm not resting my hopes on these young kids. I just know that they're going to develop, and they're going to be looked after properly. And when they're ready, they'll make the grade. And if they're not ready, they won't. It was clear, like we looked in 2023, and there was a couple of players that they debuted, and they just weren't up to scratch, right? And they've since left the club. But players like Lipboy, Hopboy, Harry Hayes, Bailey Hayward, when they played this year, I know they had much more confidence around them, much more structure around them, much more confidence in their defence around them, but their contributions were all brilliant. The season for Sam Hughes this year, the same. Just great contribution from these young men. And so it just gives me great confidence that they can bring these youngsters through. Timmy, how about the WWF takedown from Terrell in the England versus Samoa test? It looked like a bit of a brain snap. I was wondering if that had something to do with it. Gratitude. Welcome to Gratitude. Terrell May to the Dogs. Russell says Leo will stay now. His brother has signed with the Knights. Mark says Underhill will be a star even with that mullet. Well, he's already a star in my eyes, mate. And it won't be long, Mark, before you're saying he's the best prop in the club. I'm pretty sure. I think we could sign Leo Thompson, and you would say that Jack Underhill was the best prop in our club. I reckon that'll be coming from you soon. Yeah, Russell. Well, Leo was that news that come out today. That was always happening, so everyone knew that was happening. It was just official today. G'day, Cohen McEwen. Welcome to a lot of people that haven't said hello on the podcast before that I can remember. Welcome. Feel free to join the channel if you like, but I'm telling you, it's good to have people come on and say stuff. Where will the fox go? Where does the fox go? It's one of my daughter's favourite songs, but I'm not gonna sing it. It's all good. But look, I think everyone's saying Souths. People, there's a lot of cliches in rugby league. I don't know. I think maybe he goes to Para. I think he's a player that they could use, to be honest. But I don't know if Jason Riles. Well, I suppose Riles would have had something to do with Josh at the Storm. previously, so that could be a connection there. They've got some players that have got some long-term injuries like Simonson and stuff. I don't know how long they'll be out for. Sivo's on the way out by the look of it. I'm not sure where he'll go, but once he doesn't have the Bulldogs jersey on, I'll never forget what he done for the club on and off the field for the majority of it. And I will miss him. But once they wear another jersey, club first. I don't follow players. I followed Steve Mortimer and Terry Lamb and Steve Folkes pretty much. But since then, I was following Jonathan Thurston until he left. But since then, it's just been club. If we get too attached to players, it just makes it confusing. Wish them all the best. Hope they do well, except for when they play us, if that makes sense. We love the mullets, Timmy says. Karaoke at Mix. Mate, you'd be up for a good night, I can tell you that much. I used to love the Sing Star. Para won't make the top 8 next season, says Cohen. Sounds like you got a good Scottish name, mate. Cohen McEwen, is that right? My kids are half Scottish. But anyway. Well, 2 of them are. Yeah, well, look, it's one of those competitions, isn't it, where you always get a surprise. If they have they've still got 2 of the best halves in the game. They're definite top 8 halves, Mitch Moses and Brown. So they've got them on the field, and I suppose their issue has been their hooker, although I don't mind young Brendan Hands, and he'll get better and better. Yeah, Para, if their halves get cop injuries, the depth doesn't seem to be there, and they lost some good juniors they had coming through. That Sanders has gone to Canberra. Like, they've got so much depth in their halves through the juniors now, so they're going to be a team to watch out for as well. But you're Indigenous. Well, good to meet you, my friend. Did you go to the Corey Knockout? Because I used to go all the time, especially when Nambucca Heads. I'm from that area, and I'm from Wagga Wagga, Wiradjuri area. So I'm glad you come on, brother. What's your thoughts on the Fox? Are you happy? Are you sad? I think he's a very good player. And I think, I just want to see everyone move on for it and him to get another place, another team, and, do well, except for when we play him. Hopefully he doesn't put eggs on our faces. That's what I hope. We love mullets. Look, Jack Underhill, I can't get over how good he was, mate. How good he was in that Jersey Flag grand final. I kept saying it. I've watched the game 3 times now. That's how bored I am. And it's that's at night time, and I've got insomnia and whatever else. During the day, it's just flat out. So it's I just don't know who's going to come into the side. Like, are we going to get one of these players like Terrell May? Are we going to get a Leo Thompson? Or are we just going to upgrade Jack Todd to the top 30? Are we going to upgrade Jack Underhill a bit sooner than later? Are we going to extend a player like Curtis Moran? Are we going to bring Harry Hayes into the top 30? Look, I thought Harry Hayes would be on development this year because that's the way it sort of goes. And the way he played and defended, he deserves a go too. And there's some good young players coming through that Jersey Flag too. So lots of good talent come through. But we've really got to make sure it doesn't come in too quickly. All right, let's have a look at. We love the Jays as well. Jack, and Pete Webber. Hi, Mick. An evening all. Saddened with the Fox. The writing was on the wall. All boiled down to just over one season in game time. In 2 seasons, costing basically $1 million for a season. Good luck, Jack. Yeah, Pete. Look, if we would have crunched the numbers on Tom Travojevic and Ryan Pappenhausen, like probably their team's got less out of them. He was a winger, but I know how much you love the Fox, Pete. I think that we got a lot of value out of the Fox. Like, it's not just what he did on the field. He won us games. Some people like to say he lost us games too, but they're people who, if you play rugby league and you're getting dominated, your edges fall apart and your wingers average 50 to 75% tackle efficiency, because that's just the way the game is. Same with your centres. Stephen Crichton's about 85%, I think, last year for the best centre in the game. Pretty low tackle percentage. You missed quite a few, but that's the nature of the game. When we're under pressure, that's where the leaks happen for the majority of teams. So the Fox definitely had a few injuries. It's, and some of them weren't really his fault either. Like he copped that head bin and then sort of just got behind the 8 ball and was trying too hard to come back. I don't know. But he's gone now. He's gone. You go for the Rabbitohs. I don't mind, mate. I had a young fella on here that used to join the podcast. He went for the Rabbitohs, but he's a bit of a grub. So, mate, so where do you live? Do you live in Sydney? I used to work at the bank in Surrey Hills there, down near Redfern. I used to catch the train there. So it's look, I like the area. Used to spend quite a bit of time there. And Souths have a deep history, and as a Bulldogs fan, I marched to help Souths get back in the comp. There was lots of rugby league fans there who marched, thousands. Bulldogs actually bought the bell and gave that. We actually bought it at auction and then gave it back to the South Sydney club. So there you go. But, I think when I've got a lot of things to say about Jared Sutton and South Sydney, if you've ever come on, you'll hear that, because he loves your club, mate. He really loves your club. But anyway, thanks for joining, brother. Josh, Jake, Jacob, Jack, Jonathan, have I missed any? Yeah, so, Southern Highlands. Nice. Getting hot there yet, or is it still cold at night? So getting back to you, Pete, I think we got our value for money out of the Fox. Just to have joy, and he was a part of it. His combination with Birdo in 22. Getting picked in rep teams and just bringing more positivity to the club. They went around and asked every single young kid at Belmore. They had at least over 100 or something on the TV, and they all, 90% of them said Josh Addo-Carr was their favourite player. You know what I mean? Merchandise, people were turning up to watch him play, and it's just a real fucking shame, to be honest. But yeah, so I don't actually necessarily subscribe to. I get what you mean. So you're 100% right that as far as the football, he cost us $1 million over a season. But I'm pretty sure fucking Ryan Sutton's costing us about $1 million a season at the moment too. or 500 grand per game. It's just the way it is sometimes. It just is. Timmy, the Bunnies are a foundation club. I love the Good Friday clashes. It's an easy tip if Sutton is the ref. Yes, we need to win that Good Friday game. We really do. We need to win that this year, and I'll be looking forward to that game. And if Jared Sutton's the ref again, well, maybe I will subscribe to these conspiracy theories that the NRL is corrupt. They just need to put in another ref just to, take it away from the argument. Hope Josh doesn't come to South because it's a bad look for the club. Yeah, I get what you mean, man. Like a lot of the fans, South fans and NRL fans in general, just think that he'll be going there to hang with Latrell because they're mates, Latrell and Cody, and that annoys me as well because they're good human beings, all of them, especially off the field. And they get tagged with a lot of labels like they're lazy and they're grubs and whatever else. On the field, they have rocks and diamonds moments. And, I don't like Cody Walker as a player coming up against our team. He drives me nuts. But he's definitely got a lot of talent. But I know what you mean. Perception-wise, it doesn't help the perception that fans like yourself and that are having of South Sydney and the sort of boys club that's there, which is what the media have tried to perpetuate. I actually don't think it's as real as what they make out. Cameron Murray is an absolute champion. He's the captain of that club, and there's no way that he would be standing for anything like that. So, and Damien Cook was another one who's now left the club. Really good human. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with South Sydney. Part of me wants a lot of players to do well, but as a Bulldogs fan, I always hope the Souths get smashed in most games. Although I do barrack for Souths against the Roosters and against the Broncos. So there you go. And probably against the Storm if Souths aren't doing well, and because I don't fucking like the Storm. But that's enough about South Sydney, Cohen. I'm going to talk about the Bulldogs. So thanks to everyone who's Timmy says Bennett's the right guy to fix it. Yeah. All I'll say is that Parramatta have made as many grand finals as Wayne Bennett coach sides since 2001 maybe. That's pretty funny, but Bennett's won one of those. I think he's only made 3 grand finals. He's obviously a very good coach, but I think it's a little bit overrated. I think the legacy of Bennett to me is what happens to clubs when he leaves. Now, I hope, because I sort of want the Dolphins to do all right for a little bit, but I don't like them. I just think it's good for the game of rugby league in that area. And we'll see how good his legacy is after Redcliffe when Christian Wolf comes in, because obviously there's been the curse of the Bennett assistant. Now, Bellamy was his assistant and he left and went to the Storm, and we all know what's happened then. So we'll see. We will see. Gratitude says, any chance Ben Hunt and Terrell made for the 2025 season? I don't want Ben Hunt. I would take Terrell May based on his talent, and if he tells the Bulldogs what they need to hear and they believe he's going to be good for our club, 100%. As a question of any chance, I don't think Ben Hunt will be coming to the Bulldogs. Like, I'll probably say that and get egg on my face, and he will, but the amount of times he's been linked to us, 2 public meetings with Gus seen by the public, 3 times basically trying to get out of his contract till he actually did. I don't know. I really don't know. He could, but I don't think he will. I think he'll go to the Dolphins. And I think it's a better fit for the Dolphins to have him there. Take all your points, mate, but the situation would have added to their decision. It's a good stand for the NRL. Welcome back, Marcello. Yeah. Look, it gives us money. I think the reason it took so long is they had to dot their I's and cross their T's. I think the decision they made to sack him, as it's basically been talked about in the media, was made a long time ago. I think Gus knew that he was sacking Josh, but he was just carefully using the right words as to not do that. And, Marcello, the Fijian Chilean warrior, is back in the side. I don't see him as the Fox's replacement, though. I never did. I actually saw him more as a Jarrell Skelton replacement as far as personnel goes. As far as placing the cap, Gus just moves that around anyway. It's about the economy, our economy, and where players fit into it. And one thing I was saying last week, and there's a lot of clubs that do it, is there's a decision that they make where they say they nominate who their best player is, and they're like, no one gets paid more than this bloke. If they find someone who needs to get paid more than that bloke, they're likely to upgrade the bloke they've got first. So it's I don't think we'll see any players signing up for more than Stephen Crichton, except for potentially Pappenhausen, because you could make the argument that he is a grand final winning fullback and, potential superstar every time he takes the field, and has probably more influence with his hands on the ball in the game. So different players, different horses for courses, and Crichton's was paid enough where if he wanted to transition to the fullback role, that could be something that they do with him. And then if he develops into that, he can then get his pay raise after that. Because that's going to be another thing with Critter. It's like if he keeps playing centre for the next few years, what's he worth then? Interesting. Cohen says, nah, Ben wants to go home. He won't be coming to the Dogs. Blaze Hayes, welcome again, Blaze. Something I feel must have happened to May if Roosters are letting go, considering Jared Warrior-Hargrave has left as well. Yeah, very good point, Blaze. It's either they want a player and their cap isn't as good as what it should appear. Because I've said this before. How can they be releasing and letting go of all this salary cap? Manu, Kiri, Tupanua, Jared Warrior-Hargraves. How can they all leave? And then all they've really signed is Natikawase, or whatever his name is. And sorry, he's a Roosters player. I don't know his last name properly. But I'm sure we all will eventually because he looks like a big talent. They got him from rugby union. Like, I'm not sure how much they're paying for him. They eventually kept Angus Crichton. What's going on with that? What is going on with that? So they've lost all this salary cap. I'm counting. Joseph Suaalii. I'm counting $3-4 million. And what have you replaced it with? Fuck all. Yet Gus sits there and goes, well, they needed to release Tupanua to get under the cap. Like, how the fuck could they have been under the cap last year if they're struggling to be under it this year? That doesn't make sense to me. So they've just upgraded Sammy Walker to 1.1 million per season, or 1 million. Teddy's on 1.1. I think Kiri was on 950. Manu was always between 700 and 800, I think. And Suoli'i was on the six. I'm pretty sure he was the $650,000 player. And you'd say Jared was getting $500,000 minimum in his last year. Have to have been. He wasn't playing for peanuts. No way. Although, they do get a little place, as some people say. But it's bloody hilarious. What's the go with the Roosters? Where if they're struggling to be under the cap now, how weren't they under the cap before? How were they under the cap before? I think it's been a while since the NRL since Volandis has been there, salary cap stuff has just gone swept under the carpet. I think we may start to see a couple of clubs come under the microscope. Like I've heard some stuff about a couple of clubs. So there you go. And luckily I haven't heard our name. G'day, going Just Bulldogs. Make sure everyone listens to the Just Bulldogs podcast. And welcome to you, my friend. Sad to see Josh leave. Done a lot for the club, but it sets a high standard for our young Bulldogs coming up. Well, that's right. It's like, well, if you're in a situation, if you want to go drive in your car at night, you get pulled over and there's something in your system. It turns out to be positive on a second test. Doesn't matter what you say. Essentially, our hands are tied. Don't put yourself in that situation. Blaze says, with Josh leaving, how much do you think we have left in the cap? Well, the way I've done my own little calculations on the top 30, I haven't done it for this year, but I did it for last year and the year before. And I estimated that last year we had at least 800 grand spare, and with the thought that they could possibly have $1 million. And it come out that they said that they had they were right on the minimum that they had to spend. So they actually forward paid, what they can do, Blaze, is pay in advance on this year, so that they spend their cap this year, if that makes sense. So if Burton's earning 550 this year, but next year he's on 700, they could get away with paying him 650 this year and then only paying him 650 next year. Or you do the maths, whatever works out to be the same, because you have to spend a minimum amount of your cap each year, right? So it might be 12 million, but you got to spend 11 or something like that, right? So we've been spending the minimum. We haven't spent our whole cap since Gus has got there and fixed it. So your question is, if what I'm saying is right, and we've got $1 million there, that now goes up to about 1.5, which means they've got to spend some money. And whether that goes in upgrades to a player like Stephen Crichton, whether that goes in upgrades to some players on a little bit less, we don't know. But I would expect there would be a signing in the works. And the players like Terrell they're all players that are going to take a big chunk of money. And what I do think is that whoever we get, if it was Leo Thompson, I think we've got to get him on a 3-year deal minimum. Any of the others, if it's Ben Hunt, it's 2 years or 1 year. If it's Terrell May, it's probably 2 years that we sign him up for, maybe 3. Or whatever his deal is with the Roosters, we probably got to sign him up for that deal. So it's probably a 3-year deal for him as well. I'd be excited but worried if we signed Terrell May, extremely talented, but for the Roosters to be happy to let him go, I think there is something happening behind the scenes. Yeah, I think that's the same perception many would have, and I think you're on the money there. We just don't know what it is. And look, if they let him go and then all of a sudden they've signed Ben Hunt and Leo Thompson, that would make sense to me. That would make sense. Because who are they going to give their money to? Because as I was just ranting and raving about, what the fuck? If they were under the cap last year, they've let go of all these players. Well, they, in my calculations, they're about $2 or $3 million under the cap. But anyway, the NRL draw, I'm not sure. It usually comes out in. Does anyone know when the draw comes out? Maybe in December or January. Pardon me. Jaden says he can take or leave Ben Hunt. Sexton has done enough to hold the 7 jersey for the short-term future. But if we signed Hunt, the plan would be very clear for Woods to take over when Hunt retires. Yeah, probably. I just don't think it'd do much for our club, honestly, unless they use him as a 14. But I just don't see the need for it. I think we're developing young Bailey Hayward. I think we're developing these youngsters. But honestly, I don't like the way he talks in public. You know, he comes out and he gets asked. One could call him honest, I'd suggest. He talks from the hip about how he feels, but to me, he hasn't helped that club that he was at all. I don't know if they helped him either. If he comes to the Dogs, I'll support him like he's my favourite player, you know. But I really, my gut's saying I don't want this. I don't think the Bulldogs want this, and I don't think most fans are that fussed. It's quite funny though, you know. You add a Ben Hunt or a Ryan Pappenhausen and one of those props, and our club, our depth does look a little bit better. It really does. Cohen says he hopes the Panthers don't win it again. Yeah, I think they've had enough now, don't you? Gratitude. Any news on the Bronson Cherry contract? Same news that you probably heard as well, which is that they were negotiating with him. You know, if he's going to November 1, like, that's his right. But, you know, it's starting to piss me off a little bit to think that there's some players going to November 1. It's their livelihoods. It's securing their futures. And look, and our club has shown, just like every other club, that if we don't want a player, we know how to set them free. But still, you do hear that loyalty thing. It should go both ways, and I think it sort of does, in the fact that there's not as much loyalty as there should be. And I just thought Bronson would have got that sorted prior to November 1. And maybe he has. Maybe they're just, you know, there's a couple of semantics they've got to get right. But I thought that, you know, he would be one that would sign up. But we'll see. And we'll see. That's the thing. Like, we don't hear too much about Bulldogs players that other teams are coming for. And that's going to start to happen. It's either the Bulldogs keeping this player, it's either no news at all, or all of a sudden they're released or they're going elsewhere. There's never a big fight to keep services. I think the biggest fight to keep a player was Nick Meaney, where we offered him $250 and Melbourne up there offered to match ours and he went. Remus Smith was wanted. So some of those youngsters, they were wanted by clubs, but for a long time, you know, we haven't been in a big struggle to keep a player from a poaching opposition team. And but it started with a couple of our juniors who thought their pathway might be blocked where Canterbury's salary cap is and where our team is at the moment. And now got an opportunity with a team that's sort of having a little rebuild on the run. And now you've got, you know, a team like the Dragons they always seem to get Parramatta rejects, don't they? It's funny that. You know, Corey Norman, remember he went from Brisbane to Para, then to the Dragons. They got some Bulldogs players that weren't really wanted in Flanagan, and And what's his bloody name? I've forgotten his name now. Isn't that funny? Our second rower. And Bulldogs should have won against Manly. Yeah, we should have won, brother. 100%. And as a Bulldogs fan, I watched that game hoping that the result's going to change, because I'm watching it and I'm like, fuck, we're looking good here. God, we're looking good. We're looking good. And then those moments happen, those brain snaps and a few little mistakes and too much defence, and then beaten by class and speed. And it's all over. Leo Thompson is who I would be targeting, says Jaden from Just Bulldogs. An aggressive leader could take our pack to elite levels. We have some very good players coming up, so won't be upset if we miss out, but it's who I would be chasing. Yeah, look, man, I feel we're on the same wavelength a lot. I'm not disappointed either way, but it's probably one of those things, if it really does look like happening and everyone's saying it's happening, and then next minute he signs of the Roosters or the Panthers like Appy did, then I might feel some disappointment. But yeah, he to me looks like the middle we need. He really does. With Tanner Boyd leaving Titans, are they favourites to get Hunt? Apparently, they said they're not in the market for Ben Hunt at all. They're saying that the Dolphins and potentially the Broncos are the likely teams. Ross says the Chooks have never been under. He comes in with one liner every show, Ross. It's usually a good one, and it's usually close to the mark. No, we know they're not under. But Uncle Nick seems to own a lot of properties that he never visits. I just wonder who some of the tenants of those properties are and whether they end up inheriting some of those properties. Anyway, usually the drawer gets released in December before Christmas. So there you go, Cohen. The drawer will be released before then. Let's look at some of the news. We've got, I could read the club statement on Josh Addo-Carr, but we won't. But NRL on Channel 9 are saying, I don't know if you can see it, probably not big enough, so we'll make it a bigger screen. They're saying the Sydney Roosters are granted prop Terrell May a licence to split from the club with immediate effect. According to Nine and the Sydney Morning Herald journalist Michael Shamus, the club has granted May permission to join a rival club for next season. Having only signed a 2-year contract extension with the Roosters in April, the club wishes to part ways immediately. Sources with knowledge of the situation told the Herald on the condition of anonymity, the good old condition of that, the Roosters feel that May no longer fits into its plans for the future. Oh, my God. An anonymous person told Michael Shamus that the Roosters, who have come out and said that they've given Terrell May the option to go to another club straight away with no penalty, to leave their club immediately if he wants to. Some anonymous person has told Shamus that the Roosters feel May no longer fits into its plans for the future. Oh, big fucking news that is. God, honestly, do the media think we're fucking stupid? That's just them just writing that. So obviously, if they're saying he can leave next year, they're saying that as well. Do I need to be an anonymous, I can't even say that word, insider from the club to say that, to speak the fucking obvious? NRL Media Watch, here we go. May has been impressive find for the Tricolours since making his NRL debut less than 2 years ago. His size and power through the middle of the field, complementing the team's stars in the backline. He emerged as a state of origin smoky for the Blues, averaging 110 metres, 28 tackles, and at 98% efficiency across his 27 appearances. Yeah, he's definitely a good player. It was thought he would be the long-term successor to Jared Warrior-Hargraves. He's currently in England representing Samoa. He wasn't expected at training till the new year because they've got to have a 10-week break from their last game of rugby league, right? Which does affect clubs. And he's told, but could now not return to the Roosters at all after a 25-year-old reportedly told his Samoan teammates that he could be leaving the club. The towering enforcer will likely receive ample interest from rival clubs before re-signing. The Bulldogs showed interest in May. It was said that we were the favourites to get May, just like we're the favourites to get Thompson. Along with his brothers Tyrone and Taylor, the three of them coming to the Bulldogs apparently was what was going to be a potential thing. Alongside Canterbury, several NRL clubs are on the lookout for front rowers, including the Tigers and the Dragons. It's always the same. Bulldogs, Tigers, and Dragons are interested. May's potential release comes a day after Ben Hunt and the Dragons mutually agreed to part ways before the Eels release Clint Gutherson, effective immediately. It's all happening. So when they say, so Fox says a 950,000K rising star, they make you think he's on 950. This is what I hate about their headlines as well. God, they're clickbait. They'll say a 1 million, and they could be talking about, Teddy, who's on 1 million a year, and then they'll say $1 million when they're talking about someone who's got a 4-year contract worth $250,000 a season. Fucking idiots. So some news there. So there you go. There you go. We'll stop presenting. Thanks for all your chats, guys. I think we should not rush Woods, Blaze says. Give him some time in lower grades. We've seen halves playing the best in the later part of their careers. 100% Blaze, you're on the money, mate, and I don't think there is any rush. If there was, he would have been playing jersey flag and all that towards the end of the year. He's got a few halves in front of him at the moment that are all in this halves academy that we've talked about, and he's one of many that could be taking the step up. So I think they're going to try and get as much wisdom into them as they can, develop their bodies, develop their, their craft. People love saying that. So do I. But we'll see how it goes. Welcome, Bulldogs Casey, to the podcast. Haven't seen you here, mate. We don't need any of these old players or injury-prone ones. We need young men we can mould. Yes, you need young men you can mould, 100%, but you also need the players in front of them to set the standards. And if they're not, if you don't have enough of those players in the right positions, then young players tend to, get thrown into situations where it's before their time, and that's what we have suffered in a lot of years. Like Canterbury have debuted more kids than most sides over a long period of time, and yet all the time I hear fans talk about play the kid, play when we're losing. Oh, give the kids a go. We've got nothing to lose. Well, we do. We stand the real possibility that we can break their spirit. You've got to have the right scenarios for teams. I saw they played Khalid Rajab last year. There was lots of talks. There was a lot of talk that, murmurs coming that, certain family or managers or whoever it was, people around Khalid were demanding that he should be in the top 30. He should be getting his NRL debut. He got his debut, did all right off the bench. Then come that Newcastle game where we got flogged. That was a true example of throwing young players in and what you get. We need to have young players that ply their trade, and we're doing that. We've seen it with Bailey Hayward already. We've seen it with Harry Hayes. We've seen it with Lipoi Hopoi. But they didn't come in willy-nilly. They come into the team, a team that was building its confidence in defence, that it had sort of gained a little bit of, respect from competition, from their fans, from themselves. And look, as much as I want to believe that we're going to just start round one next year or whatever we play, and it's all just going to keep moving up from where we are now, I'm hopeful. And hopefully that's the case. And then, if they make the decision not to hire any has-beens, look, I don't want to hire Ben Hunt. I don't think we need him at the moment. I think there's enough players that can fill his role that are younger and also quite experienced. In saying that, Ben Hunt was probably potentially one of the best players not to win a premiership. But look, made the finals once in 8 years at the Dragons as their captain and leader. Do we need him? No, I don't believe so. Terrell May, not old, hitting his prime. But is he a problem? We don't know. I trust the club will vet that properly. And if they believe that he deserves the opportunity to put on a Bulldogs jumper, I'm going to back them all the way. Because if he doesn't, he won't. Simple as that. And then you've got Leo Thompson, who I know is a really respected footballer out there. So he's someone who could join us, and he is still very young. And I think it's essential for players like Jack Todd, Jack Underhill, Sam Hughes, Harry Hayes, Lipoi Hopoi to have that talent around them. Because if they're going to reach their goals as NRL players and become consistent players, they need the quality around them. There's no escaping it. And then there's Jacob Preston. Remember, the Roosters don't have a cap. 100%. I think you hate the Roosters as much as I do, Cohen. They shouldn't have sacked Josh at all. Look, we're not in the room. We don't know what's going on. I think they already made the decision a long time ago. That's just my belief through my perception of Gus Gould and watching him over a long time. Doesn't mean I'm right. They may have not had any idea what they're going to do. Basically, they were probably waiting. They needed to have certain boxes ticked, and they weren't ticked. And people did talk about other discretions, and there was things that happened at the Storm. Look, I've heard a lot of stuff with Josh. There's a bit of baggage there, but, I loved him. I love him. I still love him. But when we play him, I hope, he pulls a hammy and can't help his team. That's the type of person I am. Go the Bulldogs, always. What's the latest on Shrek O'Malley? How's he doing after the heart attack? Apparently he was having an operation, and he had a cardiac arrest, but I haven't heard much since, but he was all right, apparently. It's not good, though. Russell's Oz Adventures, told ya. May was pretty average on the weekend for Samoa. What did you tell us, Russell? I'm trying to look at what you told us. You said, I told you. May got released today. Yeah, but he's not released. He's allowed to leave. There's a difference. Yeah, he's allowed to leave, but he hasn't been kicked out. Yeah, it works out. Yeah, so he hasn't been released. But if he wants to leave, he can leave. He's been given permission to leave. They basically said, we want you to go. We want you to go, but he hasn't been released yet, if that makes sense. G'day, D. Glad you got home. Good, mate. May was pretty average on the weekend for Samoa. Yeah, maybe he's got things on his mind. That's why he tried to start a fight, because he was having a pretty dour game. G'day, Paul. How you going, mate? Spewing to see the Fox leave. Yeah. It's pretty mixed. Some of us are okay with it. Some of us aren't. At the end of the day, it's done. He's going. And, yeah. Oh, I forgot to put my filter on today so you could see on my sunburn. And have a look at this. See that little dot? Been getting attacked by butcher birds at my place. So they put a nest right in our window. You can see a window beside me there. There it is. So they put a nest right there and we let them build it there, which was stupid. So every time we open the window, they now think that we're like a threat. So they're attacking us all. And bloody hell, mate, they've drawn blood on myself, my partner, and my son. They're all going to die if they draw blood on my daughter. But, you know, it costs you about $660 to get them relocated. Anyway, fucking butcher birds. And I've fed them, I've done everything. They're still attacking me, ripping me apart. Feel like a prisoner in my own house. Yeah, the writing was on the wall, bro. But I'm a bit all foxed out, to be honest. It's been a harrowing experience with the fox, with what's happened there. So, guys, look, we've gone for an hour and 7 minutes. It is the off season, so I'm still doing the All Things Bulldogs best 17 from 79 to 2024. The top 13 has been finalised. Still thinking how I attack the bench, but that look out for on the Facebook page, All Things Bulldogs, and give me your suggestions in the comments at who should be on our bench. I think it's harder to name the bench than it is to name anything else. And I will also name the team from all the runners-ups of the votings. So the people that were next in line. And that team will be pretty fucking good as well, I can tell you that much. Buy a slug gun. Well, Peter, I had a look at that. To buy a slug gun, I also have to get a firearms license and then a license to acquire a firearm. And then which you need that other one. So you need two licenses, because you can get one to get the gun, but you need another one so you can buy the ammo. And it costs you like hundreds of dollars, and you got to pay it every so often for a slug gun or a BB gun. So I'll probably just make a bloody peg gun like we used to make at Wagga. I wasn't very good at it, but my friends were. I tried my hardest, but I don't know, I wasn't good at it. I actually made this triple barrel one out of an old billy cart, which was good. That worked real good. That caused some pain. But anyway, Wagga was, growing up in Wagga was a good little place. And we used to shoot slug guns at each other. And, you know, pad up and put I used to put my sister's goalie hockey helmet on and my cricket pads and my rugby league pads on, and we'd go shoot each other with slugs. So there you go. Thanks, Mick. Always a pleasure to listen to mate go the doggies. Slingshot then. So there you go. All right, guys. So we've talked a bit about who we could buy and what could happen in the future. We'll see what happens. But I'll get some content out there eventually. But I'm just being really busy with work. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing leading into Christmas. And hopefully I'll get a break this year at Christmas. We'll talk soon, people. Thanks for joining the podcast. Really appreciate it. If you've got anything that you want to talk about next time, put them in the comments. Send me a message. Do whatever you got to do. Much appreciated. Everyone's interaction. I love it. And I will see you all soon. Go the Dogs. And once again, thank you, Josh Addo-Carr. We love you. Bye-bye.